Hello, thanks for checking out the Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed. I'm Mike McGuire, and every once in a while, I like to bring on a guest who is part of what we call the Independent Spotlight. We pick an independent wrestler from somewhere in Canada and talk to them about their career, about their life, whatever, and just try and get the word out about them a little bit. Today, you're going to meet someone from the town that I live and work in called Lethbridge, Alberta, and this guy is one of the driving forces behind a local independent promotion that I've worked with a few times, and I've talked about a lot on this show just because of the interesting dynamic they have formed with their community. It's a really cool situation where Pure Power Wrestling has gone from being kind of the local indie fed, just trying to put on shows, to really becoming one of the top profiled entertainment events that happens on a monthly basis, both in Lethbridge and then around the surrounding area. There's a bunch of smaller towns they do shows in as well. So it's not quite as big as an old territory circuit where they're jumping from, city to city, major market wise, but they do very well, doing multiple shows a month and sometimes multiple shows a week right here in their own backyard. So without further ado, please meet Independent Spotlight star, Cougar meet Kyle Sebastian.
Mike, this will be a first interview for me.
This is the first time you've ever done one of these?
Yeah, I usually turn them down.
So what makes me so special?
I'm here and I got nothing going on a Sunday. I guess.
That's you just described 90% of the McGuire on Wrestling guests, from the biggest names down to the independents. What else am I doing?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Nick Aldis, Mickey James. Well, we're kind of busy, but I guess. Bret Hart, sure. Kyle Sebastian, I guess I got nothing else to do.
I don't know why I don't do them. I just haven't ever been really comfortable doing them.
Well, that's okay, man. The nice thing about you and I is we know each other. We've got to know each other a little bit. We're both big Bret Hart fans.
Yeah.
Which was a common kinship. Your dad is a massive Bret Hart fan.
Massive.
Where was he?
So he did WrestleMania 9.
Yeah.
But we also did WrestleMania 12 for the Bret and Shawn match.
Yeah.
And then whenever Raw, like when you could stand in line and get tickets, he'd be the guy front row of the line waiting for tickets.
I didn't know this until he sent me the picture the other day of the shadow box with your sister. Is that you in the photo too?
Yeah, that's me in the photo.
Okay, so which show? I remember them vividly, but it's the four guys wearing Bret Hart in bright pink shirts with black letters across the front. Bret and then Hart.
Yep.
And your dad was one of those four guys.
Yes, absolutely. And me and my sister were in the middle.
Now, was that the Saskatoon show where you won the belt, or where was that?
That would have been Edmonton for sure.
Okay.
It was my grandfather, my fafa, my dad, his friend Wayne.
Okay.
Oh, I might even forget the fourth guy.
Uh-oh.
And then my sister. But we had been to quite a few WWE live events, and I would always be at the front cheering for Bret, trying to get the glasses.
Yeah.
This was the very first show my sister came to, and she was 3 years old, I believe 3 or 4. She was cheering out front, and she got the glasses, and I was heartbroken.
And that was the day the rivalry became permanent.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Did you ever get the shades?
They're in the shadow box. They're there.
No, I know she's got hers, but
nope.
Nope,
never have. Since I started wrestling, I've never got to meet Bret Hart. And that's been almost 20 years now.
And he's coming to town this coming weekend. You're going to be away.
And I'm gone again.
You son of a gun.
Before, it was, I can't make it. I got an indie booking.
Right.
And it's like, if Bret knew that I was out wrestling, he'd appreciate
He'd be proud of me.
I've never got the chance to tell him, and he's coming again, and it's another one that I'm going to miss.
Oh, man. Well, one of these days, we got to make it happen. We got to make it happen, because, it's an old story on these shows, but the bottom line is that, once you get to know him, all of a sudden, he's just Bret. You know what I mean? But every once in a while too, he's still Bret, So
yeah, he'll pull out a story and it's like, for real?
Yeah. But your dad's been a super fan, so that obviously is what made you a fan, I presume.
Yeah, my dad actually trained in the dungeon.
No kidding.
Did you know that one?
No.
Too? Yeah, so he trained in the dungeon. One of the last one of the last classes.
Yeah.
And one of the stories I remember was him telling me Brian Pillman had them all line up and close their eyes, and he would just throw medicine balls at them. So that's one of the only stories I remember from the dungeon days that my dad told me.
I've heard a lot of line you up stories from the dungeon, but I've never heard the medicine ball ones till now. That sounds no good. So did your dad ever wrestle?
He's had a couple matches. I think there's video of one, and it's mostly a headlock.
Right.
But I think it was the last Rumble. He actually had dug through some boxes and found his old tights, and I was able to wear them for a match.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. For those that don't know your character, your gimmick, or anything like that, you are Kyle Sebastian, Cougar Meat Kyle Sebastian. Was it always Cougar Meat?
It was not always Cougar Meat. I started wrestling here in Lethbridge, and the Stormbringer, who was Oscar Wilde, Stampede wrestling referee, he was my trainer, and he needed somebody that the people hated. And I was a young kid. I was 16 at the time when I started wrestling. He said, "You be the perfect Mormon-type kid going around spreading the word."
Oh, no.
So he had me dress up in a suit with a backpack,
spreading
the word
Stampede.
of Sebastianism.
This is so Stampede wrestling, too. This sounds like something Bruce would concoct.
So, yeah, my first was a missionary. My first gimmick was a missionary, and then that changed into some brightly colored suits. And then I started dancing in these brightly colored suits, and eventually my tag team partner, Colin Cutler, had this idea of Cougar Meat, and I jumped on board with him, and we established that, I think, about 11 years ago now.
Wow.
I've been stuck as Cougar Meat since.
Well, stuck as, I mean, I don't know, you wear it like a dirty shirt. So, Google Cougar Meat Kyle Sebastian if you're listening to this, and we have a photo of you on the slide for this interview, obviously, but when it came down to your actual wrestling experience, and I've talked about it on the show, Lethbridge and Southern Alberta seems to be this kind of treasure trove of indie wrestling where a lot of local companies, it's that's the local wrestling. Sure, they do a thing, but the amount of people that show up to these shows, the amount of businesses that know what pure power wrestling is, and guys like you, I mean, let's face it, the name Cougar Meat kind of stands out, but even guys like Sydney Steele, Kevin, who's part of the ownership team, and it's ingrained in the community. It's almost on same par as, I may not say like the Lethbridge Hurricanes, the WHL hockey team, but I would definitely put you guys against like the Lethbridge Bulls, the minor league baseball team in town. I'd put you against anything else that comes through town as far as entertainment and things like that. You guys play the fair. You guys have done shows like this, but I mean, when did you get involved with this, and how did this all kind of come to fruition?
Well, other than Stampede, I would have been on the first independent wrestling promotion here in Lethbridge, which was Power Zone Wrestling, which is what Stormbringer, Tim Strom, had started. So my dad was a part owner of that company as well. And that's where I started my training, got my first bumps. So that was back in 2006. 2006. So we had our first show. It was over at the College Barn. So we have had wrestling in Lethbridge for a long time, almost 20 years, constantly. There was a little bit of a break between Power Zone Wrestling and Pure Power Wrestling. But in 2011, Steel came along with Gothic Knight, and they started up Pure Power Wrestling.
Okay.
And it's been going strong ever since, like monthly shows nonstop.
So this wasn't like a local rivalry of two different companies. One had stopped, and then this other one started.
One had stopped, and the other one started. Yeah, absolutely.
Because you get that sometimes, too, and in smaller markets, that's death.
Yes,
absolute death for indie wrestling.
It's been really nice only having the one promotion, not having a bunch of people fight about it. We've had a couple promotions come through, but nobody's been here to stay. So it has been nice having our own little hotbed of wrestling, our own area that we can grow. And it's benefiting us, and I think we're benefiting a lot of the other talent that comes here that is bringing new fans to their markets as well.
My guess, and I say this being at a lot of the shows, doing interviews, and sometimes ring announcing, is I'd say average 300 to 400 a show.
Yeah, we're getting to those numbers.
Yeah, okay.
We're getting to those numbers.
People know I'm really bad at counting too, but I mean, I always see a packed house. Like it's a packed house that we're in. It's about the size of a gymnasium, like a high school gym. You know, maybe a little smaller as far as like width goes, but I mean, this is still the fans that show up. They're hot. They're paying money for tickets. They're buying T-shirts.
They're great fans. They are absolutely the best fans that I've ever been in front of, and it's hard to pull me away from Lethbridge because of it.
What I'm saying, though, is, and this is coming from a guy that I've done Edmonton, Calgary, Regina, Saskatoon, been to shows in Vancouver, been to indie shows in Ontario. But, you know, there are indie shows in much bigger markets that would kill for the crowds that you guys get on a monthly basis. And what is it you think that keeps them coming back?
Well, I don't watch a lot of the other independent promotions in Alberta, but one thing that Pure Power Wrestling really tries to do is have storylines that are long-lasting, that go from month to month, that actually mean something, that people can be a part of and experience and grow with the characters to overcome whatever battles they have to do.
Right.
I feel like that brings in a lot of people, and that brings them back. They'll continue to come. It's not just for fantastic super indie matches, which every once in a while there will be, but it's more on the story-based wrestling, where there's a good guy and a bad guy, and everything comes to fruition in the ring.
What's great about that simplicity, I feel, and see if you agree or not with this, is that because you keep it down to those simple principles, boo this man, cheer this man, if it's a bigger show, and we'll talk about the bigger shows in a second, you guys are able to appeal to the person that's just coming in. You know, and I will attest that a lot of these are either spouses or parents of fans that maybe come on the regular, or they're people that for no reason at all have said, you know what, I'll go check out wrestling tonight. You know, why not? Or their buddy invites them and they've never been to an indie show or a wrestling show in their life, and they say, I'll go to check this out. Do you think it's that simplicity? You can have like a constant storyline, but as long as you don't overcomplicate it, that's what's bringing in people constantly?
I believe so, yeah. There's also the revolving door of people that'll come and check out our shows for sure, and I think that's what draws them in the first time. Or the fact that you've seen a majority of these faces around town somewhere doing your business.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's a lot of people around town that are all around town all the time that their faces are pretty known.
Well, okay, your business, for example. Let's move away from Kyle Sebastian here and talk about Kyle Christensen here. And what is your, you know, you're in offices, you're in buildings all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so what do you do?
I work in the fire alarm industry. I install, test, and program fire alarm systems, so I'm in new buildings all the time.
Yeah.
So the amount of faces that I see are a lot. And I am getting recognized, and sometimes I can't tell if it's through wrestling or through my work. So I gotta be both people at all times.
Yeah. Setting up a fire alarm. Excuse me, sir. Are you Cougar meat? Is that you?
It happened at the last elementary school I was
No way.
And
was the kid at least, or was it a teacher?
Even better, it was the mother.
Oh, there you go.
She's the one that recognized me, asked if we could take a picture so she could show it off to her kid later.
Living the gimmick. Look at that. Showing up at kids' schools and taking pictures with all
Ridiculous.
the moms. My goodness. That is hilarious. I really enjoyed that story, actually. Okay, so real life aside, with pro wrestling, I mean, you talked about just a second ago how, you know, your face is recognizable. A lot of these guys and girls around town are recognizable. I mean, Kevin, Sydney Steele, my general sales manager here knows him because he's part of the business community in town.
Absolutely.
Right. The Chamber of Commerce and things like that. And, different business associations. I mean, I love that the Pure Power Wrestling trailer is permanently parked at like the Heritage Bowling Alley in town, right? Like you can drive by there and there's the PPW ring trailer. But I mean, it's really rare, I think, for an indie company to be this integrated into a community.
It's taken 11 years to get us here.
Yeah.
Or more, right? It's been a lot of hard work.
But that's really not a long time either, in the grand scheme of things. 11 years?
It feels like a long time. Absolutely, yeah. With all the bumps and all the hard work, all the groundwork, all the footwork. We've put in a lot of time to build Pure Power Wrestling to what it is today. And I feel like it's still growing. We're just entering a new level. In 2025, I feel. Well,
and again, I'm not saying that to be dismissive of anything. That's more of a congratulatory statement because, I mean, the way PPW is known around town, I've never came into a town and had more people tell me about the local pro wrestling. And that was when I went to Regina. It was the first time I'd heard about High Impact when they were running out there. When I first moved to Edmonton, it was PWA and Monster Pro and all these guys. And now Edmonton itself is its own ridiculous scene. But it's just, for me, as a fan, as someone who's been in all sizes of markets, it's incredible. It's a good thing that you guys are doing so well.
Thank you.
At what you're doing. And again, I can understand where 11 years can feel like, 50 years probably, but at the same time, like 11 years, I mean, AEW's 5, you know what I mean?
True. Very true.
So, I think for what you've managed to achieve in a smaller market like this is really incredible. Okay, let's talk about the moves to bigger shows, because this blew my mind.
Okay.
And they told me it used to be called the NMAX, the NMAX Center. Now it's the visitlethbridge.com arena. That's the arena that I work in every week throughout the winter for the Lethbridge Hurricanes, which is the biggest game in town. That's the WHL, so a step down from NHL. This is the biggest arena. This is where all the concerts come. It's not the biggest arena in the province, obviously. It's about a 3,000 to 5,000 seater. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you guys run shows there. Now, you run half bowl.
Yep.
But still, the ability for an indie show to take even a half bowl of an arena in a town that they just had the number come out, 111,000 people is what Lethbridge's population is right now. And we're not selling the thing out.
No.
Yet.
Yet.
And I do say yet because I do believe that in time this is going to happen. Who made the first call to say, let's run the biggest barn we can?
That would have been Kevin. That would have been Sidney Steele, through his business connections, through his work. And man, did it ever pay off. Like, being in there, I feel like just having the arena attached to Pure Power Wrestling makes it larger than life. The event larger than life. So anybody sees that it's at the arena isn't just going to come out to the high school gym that we're at.
Yeah.
They want to see the arena show. And they're going to get one of the best shows because, like any wrestling, everything builds up. And we build up our show to our big arena show where all the gimmick matches are, of course.
Let's talk about that. This was my first arena show for you guys, and I was just doing the backstage interviews again, and you're kind enough to let me bring out the new championship belt that I've been invested in, which is, again, a credit to your company. There are companies that launch that don't even have a belt, or they're using old WWE replicas with stickers on them, and trust me, I've been there too, like some of the best companies I know started that way because that's all you could do back in the day. Run that show, and this was the first time you guys ran that arena, I believe, without bringing in an outside name, either a legend or a guy that's on, or girl on the super indie level, anything like that. And you took that money and rolled it over into a steel cage.
Yes, we did. We put all the pressure on our main event guys, Travis the Heat Copeland and Vance Nevada, to bring it home for us. And we told them that we don't have any names or any other outside talent to draw people. This is what's drawing the people. And our champion, Travis, he hit the ground as hard as he could, spread the word as hard as he could, because he knew the pressure was on him. And I think he needed it, because I've watched him develop over the past 15 years as well. But the past 2 years where we told him that we would like him in the title picture, he has been a completely different person regarding wrestling. He has put more time into wrestling. He has thought about it more, and he's open to do absolutely anything that we need him to.
It's a message for any of those young upstart wrestlers that don't have time to put up posters. Do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
and that's old school thinking, because it's all online now. No, but it's not really. And that's what I think. And I'll wrap up talking about the company on this note. That's what I think I enjoy most about Pure Power Wrestling and just seeing how you guys operate and how these shows go. It's a lot of that old school, get in their face, become known, and just try and give the best product you can every time. That's what we're trying to do with the radio station I work at here at the ranch. There's not a lot of us here. There's not a lot of promo budget. There's not a lot of anything, but anytime we can do anything to get noticed and try and follow up and deliver, that's what I feel you got to do.
Yeah, it's having the good crew of guys that are willing to put in the extra work, not just come and do the fun stuff of the wrestling. That's the easy part. Everything else up until that point, up until that match, up until that show is hard work. And when you have an entire crew that's willing to back you and willing to put in a little bit, it makes everything so much easier.
That's it, man. Well, I'm thrilled to be a small part, a very, very, very small part of what you guys do. But I mean, that's what I want to do. I've made it no secret. I would love to be a pro wrestling announcer, commentator, ring announcer, you name it, on the regs. That would be the dream goal. So even getting the chance to come and do the things I do for you guys, going up doing stuff with Dungeon, any other promotion that books me, CWE, you name it, I'll do it. And I love doing it. My biggest problem has always been fitting life around it, because again, we just launched a brand new radio station. I just moved to a brand new city. It's been nuts, right? And you yourself, I mean, you've got a life, you got family. We were just talking about a Father's Day trip you're making here, or not a trip, I guess, but it was a gift of simulated skydiving. And I mean, so between work, family, wrestling, but very rarely do I ever see you without a smile on your face.
Hey, we're happy. We're doing all the things that we love still. We've got a good, solid family. We're wrestling 2 to 4 times a week, depending on how many Pure Power Wrestling dates there are. And I still get to go spend weekends with my family up in Calgary doing the things we want to do as well. I've finally found a good balance, a work-life hobby balance. Before I had my kid, it was wrestling all the time, every weekend as much as we could.
Yeah.
And then once I had a kid, I realized, I wanted to do the dad stuff for a bit. Not for a bit. Do the dad. Do the dad stuff. And
yeah, you're good now, kid, but if another one comes along, it's over.
Once he grew up a little bit, and maybe appreciated it more, then I could get on the road again. Yeah. But right now, no, we're still enjoying our weekends together, playing video games, going off to Calgary, making our boys' trips. So right now, PPW is where my wrestling career is at, and I'm taking every booking that I can with them. And every once in a while, I'll try to get back out to BC to visit some friends and do some wrestling out there too. But it hasn't been too much outside of that, because I do need to have a nice, healthy work-life balance.
This is normally where I would go to if people want to book you. How do they get a hold of you? Is that info you want out there that much? Or?
You can find me on Instagram, but I don't even know my socials off the top of my head.
There are indie wrestlers listening right now. Like, how can you not know that? You idiot!
I know, this is all. You text me on the way over. I was coming to drop off some stuff. Hey, you want to do the podcast too? If I was a little more prepared and knew I was throwing my name out there for everybody to hear, I'd have them all ready and written down.
No, we'll link to you on this,
Kyle
obviously.
Sebastian is probably the best way to find me.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure it's in the links and the descriptions and everything. But There you go. Cougar meet Kyle Sebastian, Lethbridge's own, Alberta's own, and very limited bookings available. We'll say.
Thanks, Mike.
But that rate's going up, brother.